Hi everyone, in this video we will see how to set up Flutter in a system. So for that you just need to open any browser which you use, Mozilla, Chrome, Edge or Internet Explorer. Then just search for the Flutter install. Flutter install. So first link which you are seeing over here, flutter.dev. So it's basically documentation done by Flutter. So it will show you how to set up a Flutter in your system. So first you need to select which operating system do you use. So Windows, Macintosh or Linux. So I have Windows, so I will select Windows over here. And first is showing all the system requirements which is required, like operating system. Operating system should be Windows 7 or later and 64-bit. Disk space should be 400 MB. And tools should be included like PowerShell 5.0, which is already installed in a Windows 10. And Git for Windows is required. Once you install it, after it, suppose any update comes, it will pull from the repository of the Git. So that's why it requires Git for Windows. So please install Git for Windows if you are using Windows 10, and please check if you have 400 MB of space. Then just press this, so it will give a prompt of downloading it. So just take it, and save this. But I will not be doing it because I already have it in my system. After that, you just need to unzip it and then place it into the local disk C src in Flutter. You just need to create one new folder in local disk C with the name of src and unzip the Flutter stable which you download from over here into this folder. Or you can clone the repository directly into the src system in the src folder basically. So you just see like that it has is Windows C, like Windows C is like basically my local disk C. You need to go into src, and in this I have placed the Flutter, the stable which I downloaded the SDK. Then after that you need to set the environment variable path. So for that you need to search environment variable. Yeah, edit the environment variable. You will have something option like that. Just press enter. Environment variables. Then over here in path you need to edit Microsoft Win. No, the system variables. Yeah, in this path you need to add like flutter src.bin, c src flutter bin. You just need to add something like that. Place colon, then c src flutter slash bin. Basically, is the path where we have placed a Flutter SDK. So after that, you need to download Android Studio and VS Code. Once you download it, you need to go into VS Code, go to extensions, and search for Dart and Flutter extensions. So in my system, Dart and Flutter extensions are already downloaded. So in this place, you will have the install button. Just install that, both Dart and Flutter. For Android Studio, you need to go to Files, Settings, then you need to select the plugins. Over here, you need to search Dart. In my system, it's already installed. That's why it's showing installed. You in your place, it will be showing something like this install. You need to just click on that. It will install directly. So once all of these things are done, just open command prompt cmd and run Flutter Doctor. If your Flutter is perfectly been set up in your system, it will show you all the text without any error. If there is any error, it will show you like what to do, how to fix it. Like suppose your Android license is not verified, it will show you which command to run. Then you need to accept the license. Then it will work. It will show you the tick. So anything, if you have any problem, just search for it. So it's basically showing like Flutter is properly installed. Android toolchain develop Android device is already perfectly installed with the version 29.0.2. The Android Studio has been perfectly installed. VS Code is perfectly installed. They show exclamation mark with the connected devices because there is no connected devices to my system right now. That's why. But Flutter has been successfully installed. Once I connect to it, any devices, it will show it take over here also. So with this, we are done with the Flutter installation. Thank you.
Hello everyone. So in this video, we'll be starting by creating our first Flutter application. I'll be using Visual Studio Code, but you can also use Android Studio. So for creating your application, press the keyboard shortcuts, Ctrl Shift and P, select Flutter New Project, name your application. So I'll be writing it as first Flutter project, save it in the desired location, and then you'll see the visual code would automatically be creating a lot of iOS as well as Android files in the left hand side. See, so the Android has a lot of build.gradle, the manifest file, and iOS also had a lot of info.plist files, related files. You'll also see something called pubspec.yml. So you see, it's very important for our Flutter application because it has the name of our application, the description, the version, and also in case you import a lot of external libraries to your application, you will be writing their versions as well as everything here side to make sure that they are implemented in the application. Also, all the images, if you want to add images to your file or if you want to add any type of font in your file, you have to add here to make sure it is implemented in the application. So pubspec.yml acts like a backbone and it contains all the type of fonts or external libraries or anything that you want. Also in dependencies you will see something called as Cupertino underscore icons. So what is this for? So this basically contains a lot of icons which are to be used in the Flutter application, which are compatible with both Android as well as iOS. So you don't have to worry about importing everything and adding images here. You can also add icons from the inbuilt icons which are present here. Okay, apart from that we have two Dart files, so we don't need a widget underscore test, so I'll be deleting it. In the main.dart you will see there are a lot of things. So first of all, there's importing some packages, there's some functions, some class, and also a lot of comments for us to understand what this board is all about. So we'll be starting from scratch and removing all of that. So let's start with our code now. So first of all, I'll be importing the package. Which package is it? So it's the material package. What material package is, basically it contains all the material design. So material design is something which contains all the rules and the constraints which are there for us to display the application in web as well as Android or iOS. So material design takes care of all of that. Then if you have studied Java before, you know that inside a class there's function called void main. So it acts as the entry point to the Java code that you have written. Similarly, there's a similar function void main which acts as an entry point to our application. Inside this, all you have to do is write another function which is run app. So what run app is? So run app is another entry point, or as you can say that inside the void main function, the first or the most priority is given to the run app function. So whatever is written inside the run app will get implemented first. Okay, so in the run app I'll be writing a code for displaying a simple text on the screen. So text will be displayed using a simple widget known as text. Inside this it accepts string values, so I'll be writing this is our text. To see what's the outcome, all you have to do is debug and go to debug with Dart and Flutter. Here you can select the application or the phone, where do you want to run the application, on an emulator or in the phone. But make sure when you're using an emulator, you have to download it first. And also in case of mobile phone, make sure there is debugging enabled in your phone application. So let's see what is the outcome after some time. So for running this application, there are two ways. First, you can use your phone and run this application on your phone, or else you can also download your emulator and run on that. So in case you want to use your phone, all you have to do is go to your phone, about device, and then click on your build number for 10 times. This will enable another option called developers option in your phone. There you also have to enable USB debugging. So whenever you connect your USB to your laptop and then your phone, you will be able to download your application in your phone and then run it. Otherwise, in case of emulator, you can go in the fourth option, run and debug, and select run and debug Dart in Flutter. So here you will see two options. First is the name of emulator in case you have any, and the second is the name of the device in case you are connecting it through a USB. So you can select either of them. So on running this, you can see that there's a huge error here present which says no directionality widget found. Well, this is because first of all we haven't defined any structure for our application, and then we have only defined a text which says this is the text. So we haven't defined how should this text be displayed, or where should we put in the application, etc. So according to the error, we'll add something called text direction. Now this takes two types of values. One is LTR and the second is RTL. So LTR is left to right and RTL is right to left. So I'll be using LTR, which is the most common one. So on running this, you can now see that our text is being displayed in the top left corner. Well, now the whole screen is black and there is no orientation of how and where should the text be displayed. So we'll be adding some proper structure to our application. So first of all, I'll be introducing another widget known as Material App. So Material App plays a very important role in defining the primary color or the secondary color of your application. So in case you have done native application before, you will notice that there is something called primary and secondary color for each application. So Material App can be used for this also. Also, there is something called title, and while typing title, you can see that it accepts only a string type of value. So I'll give my title as my Flutter app, and then give the home as the text that we declared earlier. Don't forget to close your brackets. So on running this, you can see that the text which was being displayed in the top left corner, which was very small earlier, is now big enough in a red color and also with a yellow underline. This is proper than how it was displayed earlier, but still we don't want our application to look like this when the user clicks on it or opens it. So to change some more orientation, I'll introduce another widget which is known as scaffold. So scaffold acts like a boilerplate for your code. So on pressing control space, you can see there are multiple options present like app bar, background color, bottom navigation bar, body, drawer, etc. So scaffold basically defines a structure of your application. So using scaffold, you can add an app bar, a navigation bar. So navigation bar is used to navigate through all the pages of your application. So all of this can be coded by using scaffold widget. So I'll add an app bar by using app bar widget itself. Now it has a title and it accepts a widget type. So I'll write text and then title. And then I'll also add a body to our application and insert the text there. So on running this, let's see what's to change. So earlier we had a black screen with a red text, but now we have an app bar and a body, which is very promising. Now we have to understand the difference between the title that we gave in the scaffold and the title that we gave in the Material App. So when we wrote title in the app bar, it is being displayed here. So what about the title that we wrote in Material App? So when you press this button, which shows all the present applications in your phone, you will see that whatever title that I wrote here, my Flutter app, is being displayed here. So the title that we write in Material App is used to show the text whenever your application is in background state. So we prefer our title to be very small whenever it's in Material App so that it doesn't take much of the space. Also in app bar also we prefer our title to be very small because more of the application and information should be shown in the body itself. Now I don't want my background color to be white but something else. So this scaffold I can change it by using background color and give another color like colors.yellow. So colors is the inbuilt thing which we imported when we were importing this package material.dart. So on running this, you can see that the background color which was white earlier is now yellow in color. So you can similarly use many other colors other than yellow. So there are many inbuilt colors like amber, black, blue, cyan, orange, etc. So other than displaying the text, I also want my text to be displayed in the center. So I'll use center widget, close the bracket. So we can see that now our text is being displayed in the center of the screen. So this is what center widget does. It displays our text in the center of the screen. So this is all about this video. We learned about how to we create our first Flutter project, and also we learned about many basic widgets like run app, material app and scaffold, which are very crucial for building our application. We also learned about the different titles which can be given in our application, and about the center and text widget which can be used to change the appearance of our widgets. So we'll learn something new in the next. Thank you. Hello everyone. So in this video I'll be talking about how can you organize your code as well as try changing the code and trying to send that to other location and check if there's any change in the app or not. So first of all, what we can do is instead of writing our all the functionalities in the void main, we can create a class. So I would like to name my class as my class. Now the convention says that you have to name your class and the first letter is always to be capital. Then it should extend something which is known as stateless widget. Not exactly stateless widget. So stateless widget is something that is stateless, so it doesn't change its states whenever the application is running or throughout the application. Whenever it is to be used or not, the class on which it will be used, so the container or the data which is inside this class will not change its state or the data that it is containing anywhere in the application. You can see a red line here, so all I have to do is click here and then click on the bulb and you'll see something like create one missing override. So on clicking this, the Visual Studio will automatically be creating a function for me which is known as build, and the return type is a widget. So what we can do is whatever is written inside the material app, it can be taken and it can be returned here instead, because even material app returns a widget. So see, so my class has a function build which will be returning a widget which is exactly like material app. Okay, so what here can we do is we can call my class. You can also use the new keyword, but since this is new Flutter version, so you don't have to write new every time you're calling something. Even without writing the new keyword, you can always call them. So let's see if there's any change in our application till now. Okay, so there's no change. Very good. Now let's try doing something else. So as you can see that inside the run app, there's nothing much inside the void main. The run app contains just a single line, which is my class when it's calling the class, and also the void main has just a line of function which is run app. So what we can do is use expression functions. What expression function does is instead of these brackets, you can use fat arrow. Fat arrow is equal to sign and this arrow. So instead of using parentheses all the time for a single line of code, you can use the fat arrow. And even though then the code will be running exactly the same. See, there's no change. Okay. So you can also see in the top right corner there's a red banner which spells as debug. So it obviously doesn't look very nice, so we would like to remove that. What we can do is in our material app, just press Control and space, and you'll see a list of options. In here you'll see something known as debug show checked mode banner. On setting it as false, what you're doing is you're telling your Flutter or your Dart that you don't want the banner to be displayed. So keep it as false. So see, now the top right corner is free of the banner which was present earlier. So this was all coding using a single Dart file. Now let's try doing all of that but using two Dart files. So what I'll do is in the lib, I'll create a new file and name it as second file. Also the naming convention here follows that you have to start it with a small letters and also have an underscore in between. So in second file, similarly I'll import a package which obviously will be material design. So material or Flutter, right? And I'll be naming this class as my second class. Again, second class being with capital letters, and this class should also extend stateless widget for now. There is again an error. What you'll do is create a function which is built and which should be returning something. Okay, so what I'll do is take the body from here and return it in the second file. Remove the comma. Okay, so after the second file is done completely, what I'll do is in the main.dal I'll be calling this class which is second class. So in the body I'll be writing second class, and as I'm typing it you can obviously see that it is automatically importing the package which is second file.dart. So I'll be clicking it and it is automatically imported. So let's see if the application works the same or not. This is still the same, and to check once more all we can do is change the text here. So we can write this is it. Let's see if the change is visible here. See, so it is perfectly fine. The underscore file.dart is visible in the screen itself. It also still has a title which is my Flutter app, which was given in main.dart. Okay, so in this video all we did was first of all managing how can we write less number of code and not write everything and clutter everything in void main. So we can use classes for the same, which extends stateless widget or stateful widget, about which we'll be learning in the later videos. Also about the debug show checker mode, so that there is no banner which is present in the top right corner, it's not there anymore. Also by creating other Dart files and calling them and ensuring that there's no change in the application itself. So this is it for now, and in the next video we'll be adding some logic to our code, so that because all of this that we studied right now is all about presentation, but the code also has to have some logic. So let's try to do that in that next lecture. Thank you. Hello everyone. So in this video we'll be adding some logic to our code. Till now all we have done is added some text, some color or some title bar to our application. But our code also needs some logic to work upon. So in this what we'll be doing is generating some random numbers between say 1 to 20. Whenever a user opens an application, he or she will be displayed with random numbers which are between 1 to 20. So for that we'll be creating another function, and we can name it as generate numbers. The return type of generate numbers will be integer. Inside the generate numbers, what we can do is define a variable which is r is the random side, okay, and then define an integer which will be taking that random value. So that will be r dot next int. The maximum value will be 20 because we want the random numbers from 0 to 20. Then we can return an int, so we can return the I which is to be displayed here. So what we'll do is in the text section we'll be writing random number between 0 and 20 is, and then we can call a function which can be called using a dollar sign and the brackets. So they will be generate numbers. Okay, so let's see if this works or not. Great. So whenever you're opening the app, there's a random number which is 30. Let's see if it changes whenever I reopen the application. So on rerunning the application, the random number between 0 to 20, okay, so it becomes 6 right now. So it's changing. What else can we do is, instead of writing this whole thing here, we can also write this and get it returned from the generate numbers itself. So it will be returning not a string, but not an int, but a string. So we can return all of this. This and is. For calling the value, all we have to do is a dollar sign, and inside the brackets you have to write the I. And here we'll be calling the generate function, generate number, sorry. Okay, so let's see if this still works. Yeah, great. So the random number generated now is 8, and on rerunning the application, the number changes from 8 to 2. Great. So in this video, all we have learned is using some logic, and by creating another function known as generate numbers, which returns certain values like string or int, so that there is some text which is not statically everything, but is changed even in every time your application is opened. And yeah, so let's see something else in the next video. Hello everyone. So in this video, we'll be starting by learning some of the basic widgets which can be used in Flutter. So we have already learned about what is an app bar and how can we add a title to the app bar. So now let's see how can we add some icons as well as additional text to the app bar. So go to the app bar widget and press Ctrl and space. You will see a list of attributes which can be used. So the first one says actions widget and the input is list of widget. So let's try to add an icon here. For adding an icon, type icon with I capital and inside that icons with I capital. And as and when you press the dot, you'll see a list of inbuilt icons that are already present. So out of these, I'll select settings. So let's see what difference does it make. Okay, so in the top right corner, you'll see a settings icon. So similarly, you can use any icon and try to implement something like whenever you click this icon, the user of the application is taken either to the user profile app or the logout page or similar like this. Okay. Similarly, let's try to add some additional text here. So there's something called bottom attribute which takes preferred size. Inside preferred size, I can add the child as some text which says this is a text in app bar. Okay. So after running this, you'll be able to see a text which is in the app bar and present at the down of title which was already written. So since the app bar looks kind of small right now, so let's try to increase its height. So there's something called preferred size attribute. Enter size dot from height, and it accepts float type of value. So I'll enter 40.0. So you see, after doing this, the height of the title and along with the icon as well as the text, so in all the whole app bar increases. So this is how you could increase the height of the app bar. After all this, you'll also see a slight shadow here downside the app bar. So let's see how can we change that. So in app bar, there's something known as elevation. So let's try to keep the elevation 0.0. It is also a double value. So on entering 0.0, you will see that the shadow is completely gone. So what do we understand is by the elevation attribute, we can add shadow to the app bar so that it kind of feels elevated. So on keeping the elevation is 10, you will see, okay, so the shadow returns back. So basically elevation helps in giving amount of shadow so that we can control how our app bar looks in the application. Similarly, we can keep the title as center. So for that, I can use center widget, and inside that keep the child as the text itself. On doing this, you can see that the title now is centered. Okay, so in this video, all we learned was how to add some icons as well as additional text in the app bar, so you can always display some additional information or important information in the app bar itself, and also how you can keep the title in the center and control how your app bar looks by using the elevation attribute of the app bar widget. Thank you. Hello everyone. So in the last video we saw how can we add text to the app bar and also some icons and some other important values in the bottom of the app bar. So now what we'll be doing is, you see in the body part there's only a simple text with a yellow background. So in case I want to separate my text or separate my body into specific parts or subparts, I'll be using some other widget for the same. So in the second file, I'll be introducing another widget which is known as container. So as the name itself explains, container basically divides your page into parts. So here, instead of center, I'll be defining another widget which is called container. Inside the container, there's child, and I'll be see there is no change that is present here. So in the container has a lot of attributes which includes height and width, and they accept double type of value. Inside height I'll give 300 and width also is 300. Maybe give it a 6. See on running, the yellow part is now only 300 in width and 500 in height. So it doesn't take all of the screen but only a part of it. And that was because we use container of a specific height and width. Now in case I want to change the alignment of the text present here, so all I have to do is, there's an alignment tag here, alignment attribute, and it accepts alignment type of widget. So inside alignment 0, 0. Now 0, 0 will be center. So you'll see there'll be no evident change here. But in case I want to display my text in the top as -1, -1, you see there's still no change in the position of the text. And why is that? Well, that is because inside the container we have used center and we wanted the text to be inside center. So the text is eventually accepting center as its alignment and not the alignment which is given by the container. So first of all, we'll have to remove the center so that the alignment given by the container is accepted. And now the text will be moving according to the alignment which you give. So according to -1 and -1, x and y axis respectively, so the text is now in the top as well as in the left side. So you can similarly change the alignment and stuff. So after alignment, I also want to change the color of the background. So I'll be giving color, and we've already seen that how have we given the color yellow. All we have to do is colors dot sum, then the color name. So I've used colors dot green. See, the background now changes to green color. Now I don't want my important information or information like this to be typed all of it here. I want it to be in a single file as a global file where I can always, take values from it. So what I'll be doing is in the lib, I'll be declaring, or I'll be creating a new dat file which will be util.dat. Util stands for utility. So whatever utility like important text, style or colors that I want, I'll store it here globally so that everywhere it's accessible. Okay, so first of all, I'll be importing my material file. So that's very important in every page. Then I will be declaring a color. So that's color purple. That's can be declared as colors.purple. It's fine. It's already that you have seen earlier. Now I'll be writing something for a dark purple color. So what I want is, in case you know the hex code or the value, I can always type that. So inside color and not colors, inside the bracket, at first you always have to type 0x and capital 2 times F. Then you can add the hex code. So that is, in my case I'm adding purple, so it's 880 E4F. So 0x double F 880. Okay, fine. So this is the color that I want to display. Now also, instead of y, you can also display it as constant, because you always want the value to be constant. Now also, Flutter has something interesting, which is, say suppose I want a lighter shade of purple that's already defined here. Light color purple, I want colors dot purple. And when I put my cursor here on purple, you see there are a lot of shades which are given already here. So it's purple 50, 100, 200, 300. In case I only type colors.purple, it is this darker shade. In case I use 600, it gets darker. But in case I use 400, 300 or less of that, it gets lighter. So I'll be using 300 here. 300. And okay, so these color codes are already saved here. And whenever it is perceived, it is already shown in the left hand side. So all I want to do right now is use it in my second file. So here I'll use color, or maybe light color, purple color. Light color purple is now visible, and also the dart will be automatically importing this field. Okay, so let's see if is there any change from green color. So the purple color is now visible as you wanted it to be. So these are like three types of how we can define colors. And you can similarly not use purple but any type of hex code if you want, or even Dart and Flutter has a lot of inbuilt colors. So you see there are accents, amber, black, blue, brown, cyan. There are a lot of colors present here. You can always use them. So if we have colors, we also know something which is called gradients. So gradients is basically a mixture of different colors which can be used to display a more attractive way. So in case you want to use not a single color but many colors, so there's another attribute which is already present in container. So what container has is called decoration, and decoration accepts box decoration. Inside the box decoration, I want to apply some gradients. It's already present a gradient. Now also it has a lot of type of gradients, so they can be linear, radial or sweep. So I'll be using a radial gradient for the same. For the radial gradient, first I always have to choose some colors. The colors have to be in a list. So I'll choose colors dot green, then colors dot blue, colors dot orange, and some colors dot pink. Okay, so the colors are now set here, but you always want your gradient to start from somewhere, the color part to start from somewhere and then end somewhere. So I'll be writing stops. So stops are basically to stop the color. So say suppose I want to stop the green at somewhere, so it accepts double point value. So I'll be writing 0.2, then 0.5, 0.7 and 1. So all the value ranges from 0 to 1. So the color has to stop somewhere from 0 to 1. So since there were 4 colors, there are 4 stops similarly. For the center alignment of whole of that thing, from x-axis to be 0.1 and y-axis to be 0.3. Alignment is always between -1 to 1. So any value between -1 to 1 in x and y axis always are used in alignment. And I want the focal to be around, so again in alignment I'm using the focal to be -0.1 and then I guess this will be it for displaying how I want it to be. Also, once you run it, okay, so you see a lot of error. Why is that? Because you can already read from here that you cannot provide both a color and a decoration. So since a decoration box can always have a background color, it provides a gradient and not what all. So either you can have a background color defined by the color attribute or a decoration. So I'll be removing this color. See, there's a beautiful spiral gradient which is present here. The green color starts from the center till point 2, the blue color from point 2 to point 5, and there's orange from point 5 to point 7, and light shade of pink which is present from point 7 to 1. So all of that completes our look, and this is how we can use a radial gradient. You can also use a sweep gradient or a linear gradient for the same. And I would like my text to be displayed in the center. It will look better, so I'll give it 0, 0. The text to display in the center and quiet next. So it's good. Okay. So now what I want is, this was all about displaying some gradients and displaying some text. What I want is, in case now I click on this text, some message should be shown on the screen. So what I'll do is, there's something which is known as gesture detector. So a gesture detector is present. So inside the child text, I'll be defining something known as gesture detector. Inside a gesture detector also has a child. So let it be the same text which we used earlier. Okay. Now the gesture detector should also do something. So there are a lot of things we can do. On double tap, on force press N, horizontal drag, long press, pan N, pan start, scale, tap, vertical, and whatnot. So I'll be using on tap. So on tap, it should define a function. On tap, what I want to do is define a function by using brackets and then curly braces. Inside curly braces, I want to show some of that random, black text which we get at the bottom of the screen. So in here, we call them as snack bar. So for calling a snack bar, the function is simple. All you have to do is dot of context. The context is automatically taken from the build widget. So build context, it provides the context here also. And then show snack bar. So I'll be creating a snack bar. So that will be new snack bar. The content that it was pressed. I want the duration. So I want the duration to be, so I can define them in days, hours, microseconds, or milliseconds. So I'll give it in seconds. Maybe 2 seconds is enough of time. Okay. And also I have to close the function by a semicolon. So let's see if it makes any difference or not. Okay. So this is the text. In case I click here, you see, I get a snack bar at the bottom, which displays it was pressed. So gesture detectors can be basically used everywhere. You can also use it here when we talked about app bar, we also had some icons, right? So in case you want to display some logout option or the user information, you can always use gesture detectors on the app bar or any widget that you want something to do after it is tapped or any action that is performed on it. So you can always display something like snack bar, you can go to pages, or you can change the values here maybe. And so that's it. So in this video, all we have learned is basically, first of all, use of containers, which can be used to divide the pages. Also its various attributes like color and decoration. So decoration can be used to give a gradient effect or any type of gradient effect that you want here. Then about gesture detectors, which are basically used to detect your gestures, so that whenever you click an icon or something, a change is displayed in your screen like a snack bar. Thank you. Hello everyone. So in this video, I'll be introducing some new widgets which can be used in Flutter. So in the earlier video, we created this text, and when we click on this, a snack bar was displayed. So you see the text is not quite visible. So I'd like to make some changes to the text widget. So inside the text widget, press Ctrl and space to see more options. Choose style, which accepts text style widget. So I'll give it as text style. Inside that, I'll give some color. So color can be colors.white. You can also define your color in util.dart, which was created earlier. Okay, so after color, I like to increase its size. So let's see if there's anything like font. Okay, so your font family, which can be used to give different type of fonts. I'll use font size and give the font size as 15.0 because it accepts double type of value. Then in font weight, I'll give the font weight dot bold so that it appears to be a bit bold. So you see now the text is white in color as well as bigger in size and bolder. So this is how you can improve the visibility of your text. Now, in all of this, we've only worked with a single container. What if we want to work with multiple containers and different patterns? Say, suppose you want to align them horizontally or vertically. So let's see what Flutter has for it. So first of all, let's clear all of this so that there's not much data to be viewed. So we only have a yellow color container. I like to remove this container so that there's no confusion, and give this a color which was light purple. Now, this was already given before. So as of now, we only have a container which is of light purple color. So let's try to add 2 to 3 containers in a row. So in a row, it accepts children, and this accepts a list of widgets. So I'll be adding a container. So after adding a container inside it, I'll also be adding another container whose height will be similar to this. So it will be 500.0 and width will be 100.0, and give it a color. So colors dot green. Let's see how is this aligned right now. Okay, so you see that right now the two containers are in a row with hardly any space in between. So what can we do is, inside a row we have another attribute called main axis alignment. So what main axis alignment does, it defines different type of spaces which can be used. So the containers which are inside a row can be in center, end, can have space around them, can have space between them, and can have space evenly. So space evenly means that equal amount of padding or margin will be given to the containers or the widgets that you are writing inside a row or a column, or as well as stack. So let's try space between and see if we can figure out any difference. Okay, so using space between, you see the containers do have a space in between them. On using space around, okay, so on using space around, what you will see is they have a space in between, but also they have a space after on the left as well as right side of them. So the difference between space around and space between is that space between only takes care of the space between the widgets that are defined in a row, but space around also creates a space on the left as well as right. So the both the sides have some amount of space between them. You can also use start in case you want the widgets to start from the left hand side of the application. See, so now they are aligned at the start, and similarly you can use center or end. So now let's try to align them in a column instead of a row. Column, and the main axis alignment is still start here. So you will see that the containers are now aligned in the top, but there's an overflow here. Well, that is because the combined height of the container, the two of the containers, is much bigger than the size of the screen of the emulator or the mobile that you are using. So we can figure it out later, but right now let's decrease the height of the containers. It helps. Great. So now the containers have 50-50 height, and also they are aligned in the top because their main axis alignment is start. Let's try space between. Now you can see that there's a space in between the columns, the containers which are defined inside the column. So you can similarly use space between, around, or evenly for the same. So this was all about column. Now let's talk about the problem that you faced earlier when the height were 500 and 500. So what I can do for solving this is I can define the column inside another widget which is called single child scroll view, and give the child as the column itself, and close the bracket here, and let's see if we can find any change. So you will see the problem is now resolved, and also you can scroll through the containers that you have defined inside the column. So what single child scroll view widget does is basically defines that whichever child is defined inside this widget becomes a single child, and the users can scroll through the single child. So you can easily scroll using a emulator as well as your application. You can add containers inside a column and also add icons or anything else like so let's try to add an icon. Okay, so you see now the icon and the two containers are in column with each other. So this is how you can use row or column to align different objects or different widgets in a horizontal or in a vertical fashion. Well, this is it about this video, and let's study something else in the next video. Thank you. Hello everyone. So in this video, I'll be talking about two commonly confused widgets that are used in Flutter. One is flexible and the other is expanded. Flexible is used to resize the widgets used in rows and columns. So we have already seen in the previous video how can we use row and column widget in Flutter to align our data in a horizontal or vertical fashion. So what we can do is define any widget like container, text or icon inside the flexible widget, so that after that the flexible widget will take care of how to present that widget inside the screen, whereas expanded is used to fill the available spaces present around the widget. So whenever you have to align different size and height of containers in a row or column, you will see there's some amount of extra space which is present around them. So what expanded widget does is basically take all that space and combine it with the main data which is present inside the container or the widget that you're using and display it in an appropriate manner. Now flexible is mainly used to adjust the space present around it. So flexible has certain attributes like flexfit.tight or flexfit.close and many other to make sure that the size of the widget that is inside the flexible is properly maintained according to how the user wants it to be. Also, you will see that whenever you wrap a container inside expanded and when you wrap another container inside flexible with another property like flexfit.tight, you will see that both of them show a very similar property of the managing the space as well as displaying the appropriate data inside it. Also, in case you've used native development before, you'll see that flexible acts a lot like wrap content and expanded acts a lot like match parent. What wrap content does is basically it aligns your data without any extra space around it, whereas match parent takes the height and width of the whole parent. So no matter how large or how small your widget is, the widget inside expanded will take the whole amount, the whole height or width of the container in which it is present. Now flexible can be changed using fit and expanded can be changed using flex. So greater the amount of flex value given to a container, the greater amount of space will be taken by that container. So to demonstrate all of this, let's move on to the code now. So I've already written some amount of code. So first of all, I've defined a column and inside that column I've defined 3 different rows. So one row has an expanded and a flexible widget. The second row has both of them as flexible widgets and the third row has both of them as expanded widgets. So for expanded, all I have done is defined a container inside expanded and given some text in the expanded. Similarly in flexible, I have defined a container with a different color in flexible and given some text inside it. So you will see that on implementing this, flexible is taking only the amount of space that is required to write flexible, whereas expanded is taking almost all of that space. So two expanded are taking around half of the width of the screen of the emulator. So in case you want to change the amount of space these two expanded are taking, all you can do is change their flex. So in expanded, give the flex as 1 to the first container and give the flex as 3 to the second container. Also you can change the color to see a more visible change. On implementing this, you will see that the first container which has flex of 1 has taken only 1/4 of the screen, whereas the second container which is red in color has taken 3/4 of the screen. And well, that is because it has greater flex value, that is 3, and the smaller one has a smaller flex value which is 1. So similarly, you can use flex fit or tight or loose in flexible widgets to control the amount of size of the container that is being taken by both of them. So this is all about this lecture. We'll learn something new in the next. Thank you. Hello everyone. So in this video, we'll be learning what are list views in Flutter. So list views are basically used to display a list of all the similar things. So they can include a list of all the animals present around you or the stationery that you have, etc. So let's try to create a list view in Flutter. So type list view widget and inside that you have to write children widget which accepts a list of widgets. So I can use text dog and another text which has cat. So let's see what's the change. So on running this, you'll see we get a list of the items that we have already written here. Now in case you want some structured list to be displayed, we can use another widget which is known as list style. The list style has certain properties. One of that is title. So inside the title, you can write dog and you can define another list style which has a title of cat. And you can also keep the text here just to get a comparison. So on doing this, so you can see the dog and cat are now being displayed as list style here, and the cat is somehow a bit smaller. So you can see the list style is already has some attributes inbuilt in it, due to which there is a lot of padding as well as margin around dog and cat. So in case you want to display something else on the left of dog or cat, you can use some attribute which is known as leading. Now leading accepts any widget. So instead of text, I can give an icon. So type icons dot any icon, and similarly define for cat, and instead of this use the second one. So on running this, you can see on the left side there are two more icons which are being displayed that we have defined in the leading itself. And now also, since you can also define something in the left, you can also define something in the right. Now that is defined using trailing. And similarly you can add any widget. So I'll add another icon. On implementation, you will be able to see another icon on the right side of dog and cat, which we have defined here in trailing. See? So you now have the access time icon in the right side of dog and cat. Also, after you define your list, in case you want to add some more description to the title, since the title is always meant to be a bit small, you can also add subtitle. So subtitle can contain anything used to describe the title. So I can write this is an animal, and similarly I can add the subtitle in cat. You see, so the subtitle is now arriving here. So here you can clearly see the difference between defining a normal text as well as defining a list inside a list style which structures your data for you, so that on the left, right, you can add some icons or whatever you want, as well as some mini description in the below by using subtitle. So apart from the list view, let's see how can we add padding or margin to a container. So define a container here and give its child as text cat. So for defining any margin or padding, use margin. You can do it using edge insights. Now it has three types: all, only, or symmetric. So all is used whenever you want to give margin to all the four sides, that is top, bottom, left and right. Only is used whenever you want to give margin to only one side, and symmetric is of two types. So it is either horizontal or vertical. Horizontal is used whenever you want to give margin to the left and right side, and vertical can be used whenever you want to give margin on the top and bottom. So let's use symmetric here and give some horizontal margin as 30.0. Now it accepts double value, and give some color so that we can easily differentiate the margin. So on implementing this change, you can see that a green container has been created, and it is some distance between the screen of the emulator and the container. Well, that distance is because of margin. So margin is the distance between the surrounding of the container and the container itself. So similarly, you can also add a padding using edge insights. It also has 3 types. So let's give some padding in the top only and 20.0. So now adding the padding. So after adding the padding, so after this, you can see that there is some space between the cat as well as the container. So padding is basically the difference in the screen. So after this, you can see that there is some space between the cat and the container. So padding is the difference between the content of the container and the outline of the container. You can also add padding to anything else using the padding widget. So padding widget works the same. All you have to do is assign any child. So say suppose I'm adding any text like dog, and also assign a padding. So use edge insights.all so that you can add padding to all the sides and define any double value. So after this, you can see that in the screen we have a dog which has some space, and that is because of the padding given. So this is all about adding a list view as well as about padding and margin in a container. Thank you. Hello everyone. So in this video, we'll be talking about what are stateful and what are stateless widgets. So we've already used stateless widgets where we used to have some container or some gradient that used to display some text. In this video, I'll be introducing what are stateful widgets. So state is an information that can change during the lifetime of the widget. So say suppose there's a checkbox. So whenever you check that or tick that checkbox, you are expecting the checkbox to display a tick or to change some color or show any change. So that can be done only when the state of that widget, that is, that checkbox has to be changed. But in case of stateless widget, it remains constant throughout the application and shows no change. So in the previous application, when we used the gradient and showed the text that this is the text, we didn't want that text to be changed, and we wanted the text to be displayed as it is throughout the application is running. So that is when we use stateless widget. Stateful widgets can be used whenever the UI or the data of the application changes dynamically. So say suppose you're entering a form, and when you're using the keyboard to type some words, you're expecting that word to be displayed on your screen also. So that can only be done when you're using a stateful widget. So it keeps on changing its data or whatever it's showing as and when it feels that something is changing or something is being interacted by the user. Stateless widget can be used whenever static information is to be displayed to the user. So whenever you want to say suppose display the app bar. So the app bar has always the title or the name of the application, and you want to display it as it is throughout the application. In that case, stateless widgets are used. Some of the example of stateful widgets can be checkbox, radio button, or even the forms wherein we use various drop down or text fields or text areas, anything like that. In case of stateless widgets, they can be icon, text, or container or something like that. Now, stateful widget use create state function and they return a state. Whereas in stateless, we always used to return a widget in the build function. So we always used to return some container, or say suppose you can also return some row or column because they are all widgets. So we used to return them in the build function. But in the stateful widgets, you will be returning a state, and that too in a create state function. Now stateful widgets use set state to inform the framework that the widget needs to be redrawn. So say suppose you have checked the radio button out of 2 or 3. So whenever you press that radio button, you want the UI that is displayed on the screen to be changed and show whatever you have clicked. So that can be done using stateful widget, and that can also be done using set state function. So what set state function does is basically it informs that information is being changed and it should be similarly reflected in the UI. So whenever there's a checkbox and you click on it, you want it to be checked like this, and this can be done only using stateful widgets by applying set state so that set state shows that you need to set the state of this widget to something else that is now being currently changed by the user. Whereas in stateless widget, you don't need anything like that. You need to define it once, because already the state is not changing, and you don't have to show it or show different data again and again, but the same data throughout. So we'll be learning how can we do this in code in the next videos. Thank you. Hello everyone. So it's that time of the video where we explore the stateful widgets. So in this video we'll be creating some forms and take different type of inputs from the user by using different form elements like drop down, checkbox or form field, and then we'll be saving it into our database. So let's get started. First of all, your class will extend from a stateful widget, and it will contain a function called create state, which on the left and right hand side will take the name of the state that this second class has. So then you'll have to create another class which will be the state itself, and the state will be extended from the state of the class. So every class is a state, and so this state will be extended from the class itself. Then let's see how can we create a form in Flutter. So we already have a widget known as form in Flutter. So inside the form I'll be defining a column, and inside column I'll be defining the different form elements so that they are displayed in a proper manner. So the first element is text form field. Text form field is used to take inputs from the user. So the user has to type out all the values in the text field that is given in the form. Now all it has is decoration. Now decoration has label text and hint text. So let's try to run this and see how the form is being displayed. The label text that was written enter name is being displayed here, and as and when the user clicks this text form field, the name which was given as the hint text is being displayed. So the user is confirmed that whatever data he is typing is for the given text field itself. So next up we have enter age. So in enter age you will see that as and when I click this, my keyboard changes. So Flutter allows you to customize your keyboard according to the input that you want from the user. So here I have written keyboard type as text input type.number. So the keyboard can be customized in many ways. The first is date time, so you can enter the date time. Email address, so it adds @ and com to the keyboard. Multiline is when you want to write multiple data or a huge data like that of address, so we can use multiline. Number is used to write numbers, so 1 2 3 4 whatever. Phone is used to add some hashtag or asterisk values. Text is used to write simple text. URL is used whenever you want to use www or .com. So these values are added to your customized keyboard. So say suppose you run phone. So on running phone now, you'll see that your keyboard now has this plus sign, and now also this hashtag and asterisk. So this is all because you've changed the keyboard type. Now the next thing is password. So you don't want your password to be visible to the user. So all we can do is write obscure text as true. So this will make sure that whatever data that you write here is going to be in the form of asterisk, so no one else other than the user knows that what data is being stored in the text form field. Also, in case you want the user to enter only limited amount of characters, all you can do is in the text form field, you can write maximum length and then define the length to be 20. So when you run this again, you will see that now the maximum limit is 20. So when you want to write anything like that, and if it exceeds the value of 20, see, so it's not going to, even if you go on typing, it's not going to display here because the maximum character length is 20. So this is all about text form field. Now next is drop down button. So herein the hint is the text that is displayed here, so the user knows that what is this drop down all about. Then the items are all stored in a list. So first of all, I've created a list which is known as locations, and it has some random values like A, B, C, D. Now in this list is being mapped and it is creating a drop down menu item. So each menu item has a child of text of location. So location is the single value. So we are iterating through every item of the list, and currently location is the value out of all the locations. So that location is the child, and value is whenever I'm clicking this button. So now it will not be working because as you can see there's a yellow underline, and on seeing what the problem is, see, so the on change is required. So on change we'll write this later when we are validating and submitting our data. So currently it not work, but value is whenever out of all the list of locations, if I'm selecting A and I want that A should be taken to my database as well. So value is the data that I want to be stored in my database in the backend. So value is used. Then we are using toList to convert all of this map into a list, because you'll see that items, it requires a list of drop down menu item. So toList is used to convert all of that drop down into a list and then display it. So next up we have our radio buttons. So radio buttons are defined in a row. So you'll notice that when you define your row inside a column, it will display some error, and that is because the configuration of elements of the row is not fixed. And so we'll keep the radio buttons in expanded widget. We have already studied what expanded does. It takes up all that space that's present inside the screen. So herein we have two radio buttons, one for single and one for married. Also you'll notice that a form has multiple type of radio buttons. So say suppose we have one which is used to check if you are single or married, and the other one is used to check if you are a single child or you have siblings. So for that we don't want that radio buttons to get mixed up. So each radio button has a group. So here our group value is marital status. Marital status is already defined single as a default. Then next up we have checkbox. So checkbox is used to display. So checkbox is used to display here if you want to be checked or not. So the value is terms checked, and since the value of checkbox can be either true or false, the value is defined as a boolean here. So terms checked is a boolean and it is labeled as true. Now you'll see that herein the checkbox is being displayed on the right hand side. In case I want it to be in the leading position, that is in the left, what I'll do is in the control affinity, you write leading. So on implementing this, you will see that now the checkbox is in the left hand side. So you can similarly control the position of your checkbox by leading or trailing. So by leading it will come in the left, by trailing it will come in the right as it was before. Now title is used to display the text that this is the checkbox for, and in case you want to check it you can do, otherwise don't check it. Now also the value is displayed in a boolean. Next up we have a raise button. So till now we have already worked with gesture detectors. So now in case I only want to display a simple button, I can use an inbuilt function in Flutter, that is raised button. First of all, I'm defining the color of the button, which is not yet displayed because as earlier stated, on change or on submitted is not present, and we'll be working on that later. So by color I'm defining the color of the button. Then second, I'm defining the color of the text that has to be present inside the button. And then we have the child which says register. So registered is being displayed here. Also you'll notice that in case your screen is small, on clicking any text form field, if a pop-up appears, there will be an overflow. To overcome this, all you can do is wrap up all your form inside a single child scroll view. So we already know that single child scroll view defines that the form is a single child and the user can scroll through this form. And to make it more clear, I've also defined some margin in the horizontal side. So horizontal means left and right side. So there's a margin of 10.0, so it looks more appropriate. So in this video, we learned about various form elements like text form field, drop down, radio button, checkbox, as well as button. In the next video, we'll learn how to validate all this data and then save it to our server. Thank you. Hello everyone. So in this video we'll see how can we validate the data that is being entered by the user in our form. So first of all, why is validation important? So say suppose you're an application, inside the enter age you forgot to customize your keyboard, and now the user can enter any alphabet as well as numeric value or special symbols. And this is exactly what we don't want. So the app should display some sort of error or warning that the data which is entered by the user is wrong. So therefore validation is important to make sure that we keep a check on the data that is entered by the user. So let's see how can we do this. So to uniquely identify any form, all we have to do is define a key. Now what key does is basically it uniquely identifies your form. So whenever you want to validate your form or save the data that's being entered by the user, the key plays an important role by identifying your form and then performing the further actions. So key will be defined as a final and then equal to global key as form state. So this is all so that you can uniquely identify a form. Now let's see how can we work on different form elements. So the first is text form field. So it has a validator function. The value is whenever your user is entering any information, so whatever change is being experienced by the text form field is saved in the form of value. So you have to check that if that value is empty, then you will be returning please enter a name. Similar goes with the age. So whenever you're checking that if the value is empty of age, then you have to return enter age. So right now it's not working, but it will start working once we save all the data also. So you'll see that whenever I click register without entering any form of data in any three of the fields, it will display error. So in this, it will display please enter a name, and in the second one, it will display enter age. Now this was all about checking if the data is empty or not. In case of password, I also want to check if the length is less than 8 or not. So all I can do is, I can also add another validator which is value.length. So value.length keeps a check on the length of the data that is entered by the user. If the value is less than 8, then you should return that password should be more than 8 characters. So in case of password, we are checking first of all it's empty or not, and second if the length is less than 8 or not. So this is all about text form field. Let's go to drop down button. So in drop down button, all we are doing is displaying a list of options for the user to choose from. So since the list of the drop down items is made by us, we can be assured that all the data is valid. So let's move on to the radio button now. For the radio buttons, using the group value, I have already assigned the default value, and that is single. So the marital status is single right now. So in case the user opens this application, all we want from the radio button is that at least single or married should be selected, and we have already assigned the default value to be single. So even if the user doesn't choose any value, we have a default value. And in case he wants to change this single to married, he can always click on the radio button and change it. So we don't need any type of validator in case of radio buttons. Similarly in checkbox, because in case we want that the checkbox should be checked all the time and it should be compulsory, then we can state that in our functions. But right now all we can do is basically define a default value. So here the default value terms checked is termed as true. So therefore on opening the application it is checked right now. But in case the user changes it and I don't want it to be compulsory, it is completely okay, and therefore we don't want any validator here also. So in the whole form, all we need validator is for text form fields. Also you can check various emails, like it has @ and it has dot or not, and what all the values you want on the left and right side of the @ or dot. So similar validations can be used, and they can be defined in the validator of text form field. So this is all about validation. In the next video, we'll see how can we save the data that is already taken in these fields. Thank you. Hello everyone. So in this video, we'll be seeing how can we save the different form of data that we are taking from the user in the form. So first of all, we'll be defining different variables so that whenever the data is being entered by the user, that is saved in these variables and then passed on to the backend. So we have already defined name, age as 0, password. The marital status and terms check were already defined earlier. The locations were also defined earlier for the drop down button. So first of all, moving on to the text form field, we have onSave function, and here value is same, so that whenever the user is typing anything and then he presses a button or on any action, that value of the text form field gets here. And then what set state does is basically change the value of the variable at that particular moment of time. So say suppose you're in an application, in the radio fields you have select married. So as and when you have select married, you want the app to display the change at that particular time. And this is when stateful widget and set state comes into play. So whenever you're clicking anything or changing anything, set state will change the value of that variable at that point itself, so that user can see the change. So on save, I'm setting the state of the name variable as the value which is being entered by the user. Similar goes with password as well as the age. Now all I have to understand is basically that age is a numeric value and text form field returns a string value. So I'll be trying to convert the value into an integer and then pass it to a age variable. There on drop down button I have onChange function. Similarly, I'll use set state to change the location of the variable. I also in drop down I'll be setting the state of marital status to the value that is then pressed by the user, and similar goes with checkbox type. So here also I'll be using onChange, and inside that I'll be writing set state function to change the value of terms check. And then in the last I'll write a function in the raised button which is known as onPressSubmit. So what I'll do is in this function, first of all I check if the form is validated or not, and this is when our key comes into play. So if the value of key is validated, then you have to save the value of the key and then print all the values here. You can also display the value or display some message to the user that the data is being saved. So let's try to run all of this. So in case I don't enter any data here and click on register, you can see that there are red color text present here, and this is all that we have written already in the validator. So here we have written enter age and please enter a name, and that is being displayed here. So in case I write the values here, and let's write a small password and see if it works. So still you will see that enter name and enter age are all fine, but there is still red present in the password because the length is smaller, and it's showing password should be more than 8 characters. So I'll be adding something more here. Select something from the drop down, and I don't want to change any value of the radio button or checkbox, and simply click register. So now everything is done and the output can be seen here in the debug console. So here all the data that was entered here is being displayed. Similarly, you can display this data to the user. So in this video, we learned about what is a form, what are the different form elements that can be defined, how can we validate the data that is being entered by the user, and also save the data to our backend. Thank you. Hello everyone. In the previous videos, we have seen how can we add certain widgets like container, rows, columns, icons, or even text to our page. Now in this video, we'll be seeing how can we create certain other pages like them and also navigate between the two. I'm sure you've never seen an app with only a single page in it. Therefore, navigation plays a very important role in connecting the different pages of an application. So for that, you have to understand some basic concepts. Say suppose there is no application open right now. So what Flutter does is basically it stores all the screens of an application in the form of a stack. Now stack follows last in and first out, which means the last thing that was pushed inside is the first thing to go out when we do pop operation. So now say suppose you open an application and the first screen opens. So the stack will now be pushed with a screen 1 inside it. So now the top of the stack has screen 1. Similarly, when you move to another page of that application, say suppose screen 2, now screen 2 will be pushed inside the stack and the top of the stack is now screen 2. Similarly, if the user presses the back button here, the screen 2 will get popped out, and now the stack will only have screen 1 and it will display this screen. And when the user again presses this back button, the application will then close and the stack will become empty once again. Now let's try to do all of this by using some code in Dart. So for going to one page to another, from one page to another, all you have to do is create something called routes in the main.dart. So what route does is basically it contains a map of string and widget builder. String is the name of the screen that you want to give on the left hand side, and widget builder returns this different screens of an application. Right now I only have one class which is second class, and that is why I have defined it everywhere. But in case you have more than one pages, you can always add different names and remove the rest of the replications to remove any confusions later. So once you have named your routes in the route section in main.dart, all you have to do is use gesture detectors, and inside gesture detectors you can write some code for pushing and popping those screens. Now moving back, in case you want to go from one screen to another, you can use a simple basic push operation. So it has two types of inputs. Say suppose you have written all of that in the routes, you can use push name function and write the name of the route that you want to get pushed. Otherwise, in case you want to add some parameters in your screen, you can also use material page route and return the builder of the screen using navigators.push. Both of them will perform the same function. What they will do is, in case you have an app with screen 1, 2 and 3 open correctly and you do push operation of screen 4, the stack will get full with screen 4, and popping, this screen 4 will get closed and not screen 3. So this was one of those operations. We'll be learning more of those operations in the later videos. Thank you. Hello everyone. So in this video I'll be talking about a very important function that is useful for navigation. So the name of function is pop. Let's see how we can code that. All you have to write is navigator.offContext.pop. So as we all know that all the screens of an application are stored in a form of stack. So say suppose a user has opened an application and then opened screen 1, 2, 3 and in the last screen 4. And then he's pressed the back button of your phone. So the pop function will get initiated and the screen 4 will get popped out of the stack. So now screen 3 will be visible to the user and he will be working on screen 3. So let's try to code all of that. So here, create another Dart file in your lib. I will name it as second_screen.dart. Paste all the code that is already present in first screen and remove the content so that it can be differentiated. I will write a text which says screen 2. Also in the first screen, all I want is that on a click of a button or a text, it should navigate or push to second screen. So what I'll do is, inside the column I'll define a gesture detector, and the child should be a text which says click me, and on tap I'll create a function which navigates. So I'll write navigator dot of context dot push name. Now the name of the screen is not yet defined in the main.dart, so I'll do it at first. Remove all the extra names and also make sure that the name of your class is different. So I'll write it as second page class because every Dart file should have a unique class name. So I will write it as second page class. So all of this is already defined in the routes. Now in the first screen, I'll give my route name, and the route name is screen 2. Also make sure that when you're using routes, your home should have only the class that you want to call as soon as the application is opened. So I'll remove all of this and write second class because it is my first page. And also you have to paste all of that scaffold thing in your Dart file. So whenever you're working with more than one page, you should make sure that each page or each Dart file has its own scaffold, because scaffold has a unique type of app bar or navigation drawer, and in case you want it to be different for different pages, you have to define scaffold for each page. And don't forget to close the braces. Similarly, in second screen, I'll be defining another scaffold. And give the title as screen 2. Perfect. So everything is done now. Let's try and run all of this. So on running this, you will see that we have a click me at the bottom of the 3 rows that we have created earlier. So on clicking click me, I have a screen to open in the next page. Perfect. You'll also see in the top left corner there's an arrow button, on the click of which we come back to the first screen. So in case you don't want it to appear it like that, all you can do is in app bar there's something called automatically implying leading. So what it does is, basically if you are using navigation to move from one screen to another and you don't want the user to show that this screen has been pushed, then you can always tell the automatically implying leading as false. So see, now after doing this, the arrow is not here on the top left. But I'll suggest that in case you're pushing it, you should always try and keep it as true, so that the user has some idea that he's navigating through different screens. Otherwise, he'll think that he's on the same screen every time he's doing something. Also, I want that on screen 2, it should display something like click me, so that whenever I press click me, it should pop back to the first screen. So what I'll do is, in the child, I'll define a column, and the column has children. So the first child will be a text, and the second will be a gesture detector, and the gesture detector will be a child of text which says take me back. And on tap, I define a function which says navigator dot off context dot pop. So after writing this, let's see what is the difference. Okay, so on clicking me, I go to the next screen and there's something else called take me back, and when I click on take me back, I'm taken to the first screen itself. So this is how we use push and pop. Also, you'll see that when you press the back button here, we don't want the app to close like it is doing right now. See? So the app closes on clicking the back button of the phone app. But we want to make sure that the user is completely sure that he is pressing the back button, and you want to show him, say suppose some text, that this is the final screen, and after pressing back, you will be closing the app. So what we can do is, inside the material, I'll define another widget which is called will pop scope, and it has a child of our column that was defined earlier. Close the braces. So what will pop scope does is, basically it will question the user that this is the last screen, do you want to quit the application? So except child, it has also had on will pop, which accepts a future boolean function. So I'll add a function here. Let's write some code so that whenever the user is on the last screen and presses the back button, some dialog box will appear. So write show dialog, give the context as context, which is already defined in the build function of your class. You can define the child, but it is deprecated now, which means that it is not used. So use builder, use fat expressions, and write some alert dialog. Then give the title as some text widget which says, are you sure then in the content give another text which says it will close the application. And don't forget to close your function using the semicolon. So on implementing this, you will see that whenever I click the back button, a red dialog box is shown. So this is the title and this is the content that we wrote. So in this video, we learned about push and pop function and how we can maintain routes in the main.dart, and also about the will pop scope function. Thank you. Hello everyone. So in the previous video, we have discussed about push and pop function. Now in this video, we'll be talking about some more functions that can be used in navigation. So they are push replacement name function and pop and push name function. Now both of them perform almost the same function. What they do is, say suppose in a stack you have 3 screens and you want to replace the top of the stack with some other screen. These functions can be used. So let's look at the code first. So in case of the first one, all you have to do is write navigator.off context, the name of the function, and then inside the bracket, write the name of the screen that you have already defined in the routes of main.dart. Similarly for the second one, use navigator and then the function name, and inside the bracket the name of the screen. So what these two will do, that in case you have 3 screens, screen 1, 2 and 3, and you use these function, the screen 3 will get replaced by screen 4. Now when can we use this? So say suppose you have a login page wherein the user enters his or her credentials, and after pressing on the login button, it goes to another page, say the dashboard page. So when the user presses back button on dashboard page, you do not want the user to come back to the credentials page or the login page. So push replacement name function can be used because first of all, it will replace the login page with the dashboard page. Also, it gives a type of entry animation. So it will look like you want the user to enter the application. Now second scenario, say suppose you have an application where a page shows a list of all the items that are present in your cart. You go to another page, say apply filters. Therein you select all the filters that you want to apply on the cart and select apply filters button. It pops out that screen and takes you back to the screen where it shows a list of all the items in your cart but with the filters on it. Now in this case also the filter screen is popped. So pop and push name can be used here also because it provides a type of exit animation. So in short, both of these functions provide the same functionality of replacing one screen with another, but the first function provides a type of entry animation and the second function provides a type of exit animation. You'll understand when you implement it on your own. So this is all about this video. Thank you. Hello everyone. So in this video, I'll be introducing another function that can be used for navigation in Flutter. So the name of function is pop until. As the name itself suggests, pop until will keep on popping all the screens which are present in a stack until it reaches the particular screen that I've already defined in the function. So let's start with the code itself. All you have to type is navigator.pop until and write the name of the screen that you have already defined in the routes of main.dart. And also you'll be writing all of this code in a gesture detector so that whenever the user presses the gesture detector, the pop until function will come into action. So say for an example, in an app you have screen 1, 2 and 3 and the user is currently on screen 3 and you apply pop until screen 1. So screen 3 and screen 2 will pop out and the user will be taken to the screen 1. Now when can this be used? So say suppose you have created an application which has certain pages, say suppose 2 to 3 pages to enter the information of the user that is using the application. So the user diligently enters the information in screen 1 as well as screen 2. But in screen 3, they decide not to submit this data to the user or to the application and presses cancel button. So now what pop until function will do, it will take the user back to the initial screen without saving any data that was entered in between these screens. So this is about this function. We'll learn about some more functions in the next videos. Thank you. Hello everyone. So in this video, let's explore some more functions that can be used for navigation in Flutter. So the name of function is push named and remove until. Let's see how can we code this. You have to write navigator.off context dot push name and remove until, and inside the brackets the name of the screen that you want to push. In this case it is screen 4, and then write route dynamic route, which implies false. Now this means that in case you have multiple screens in your stack already present, this function will make sure that all of that is popped out and then screen 4 is pushed. So say for example you have screen 1, 2 and 3 in your stack and you apply this function, then route dynamic false will pop screen 3, 2 and 1 out of the stack and then push screen 4. Now when can this be used? So say suppose a user has opened your application, gone through the dashboard page and the multiple screens, entered his or her data and explored every page of the application, and then go to the logout page and pressed logged out. Now in that case, when the user is logged out, you don't want the user to go to the previous page or the dashboard page when they press the back button of your phone. So we can use this function to make sure that only the logout page is pressed or is pushed to the screen and all the rest of the pages or the routes are popped out. And you can use this function and write route dynamic route false so that all the dashboard pages and the previous pages are popped out. Now there's another way to write this function. So now in case you don't want all the screens to get popped out, you can write module route dot width name, and inside that the name of the screen until which you want all the screens to get popped out. So in case you have screen 1, 2 and 3 and you use this function to push screen 4 and pop out all the screens until 1, the screen 3 and screen 2 will get popped out of the stack and now screen 4 will be visible to the user. Now when can this be used? So say suppose you have a payment gateway in your application and the user makes some payment. So all you want to display him is a screen which says the payment is now complete. We can say that screen to be screen 4. Now you don't want the user to go back to making payments again when they are pressing the back button of their phone. So we can pop out all of that payment gateway and make them as screen 3 and screen 2. And screen 4 is basically the page which shows that the payment is now complete. And screen 1 can be any dashboard page which is not related to the payment. So this will not disrupt any flow of the application. So this was all about navigation in Flutter. Thank you.
Hi, in this video, we will be learning how to pass JSON in Flutter. It's pretty important topic because when we communicate with backend, the client sends the request to a server in a JSON format, and similarly, server sends request response to a client in a JSON format. So we pass the JSON and show the result which we got from client into a widgets. So I will be helping you with this. Nevertheless, knowing the basics of JSON parsing in Flutter is pretty important. When you are good at this, or if you need to work with a larger project, consider code generator libraries like JSON serializer, etc. And I will be making videos on this after finishing this topic. So we will begin with simple structure first. So as we can see, the JSON the JSONs basically have curly braces in the starting and the endings, and it has the key value pairs. So for the first one, the ID is the key and 120 is the value of it. Similarly, the name is the key and the Pratik Mewara is the value of it, and score is the key and 98 is the value of it. So first we will be passing this the simple JSON, then we will move on with the complex JSON and the arrays. So let's move on with this. First of all, I have created just a project. So in this video, we will not be communicating or showing it the results in the widget. We will just making the classes, and after we know how to pass the JSON, then we will make one application as a small project. So I am making a directory with the name of models, and in this first file we can have simple JSON. Dot. So as we know, uh, our JSON looks like id colon 123 name. So id is key and value is 123 as I told you before. So this is a JSON which we get as a result from backend, and we will be passing it. So I'm writing this in front of us so that it's easier for us to see like what's the result, and we should not shuffle between the screens. So it'll be easier for me to explain. Yeah. So first what we should do, we need to understand the structure of JSON. JSON consists of map that has key value pairs or a list of maps. So as we can see, this is just a map. It doesn't have a list. So let's first we will make a JSON. As we know, this is like basically a detail of an student. So we will pass the JSON. So we will create a class with the name of student, and there are three values basically: ID, name, and a score. So we'll give the names to it. The string. So we are creating variables first: ID, string, name, string, int, score. Yeah, as 98 is not in the colon, so basically it's int. So we'll be writing int score. And we will be creating constructor of this. Constructor are basically required when we need to call this class into a widget, or when we need to show results in the widget, we call as a constructor so that we get the values over there. So this dot id colon this dot name this dot score. So this is the basic class what we have, but right now we are not yet finished. We need to pass the JSON still. So for that we need to create a factory method. According to Dart documentation, we use the factory keyword when implementing a constructor. That doesn't always create a new instance of its class, and that's why we need it right now. So factory, we will be creating a factory constructor over here. Factory student dot from JSON map string dynamic JSON return student ID JSON ID name JSON name score JSON score. So as I told you, factory method, when we use it, why we use it. So basically factory keyword when implementing a constructor that does not always create a new instance of the class. So basically when we call this function, it doesn't create a new instance each and every time when we call this. It basically reuses the code every time. So it does not occupy space. So basically we will be using factory over here. Factory is the keyword. Then student dot from JSON. Student is the class name and from JSON is a function name, basically which we are creating right now. And we are passing map string dynamic. So you will be having question why we are passing string dynamic value over here. So basically the JSON which we have, as we can see, it's a key value pair. It's like string, 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 string. Right now we have value, ID is also string and 120 is also string. So right now what JSON we have is in string, string format. But still we are passing string dynamic format because sometimes the JSON can be complex. The value, the key of the JSON is always a string, but the value can be of the maybe nested, may have a multiple JSONs or maybe an array inside that. So we're making string dynamic JSON right over here. So what we are doing over here, basically we are serializing, we are deserializing it over here. So yeah, you may be thinking like what is serialization and what is deserialization. So let me explain it to you once. Yeah, serialization simply means writing the data as a string. So and deserializing is the opposite of that. It takes the raw data and reconstruct the object model. So what serialization is basically is done when we send our data, like when we give request from client side to server side, we use serialization when we need to send a class or array of objects. So we do serialization. We take the data as a string. So we simply means writing the data as a string. So that is serialization. That's what we do when we request to a server. When we get response from a server, it comes as a string. So it's just the opposite of that. Just what means the deserialization. It takes the raw data. It's basically a JSON. Is the raw data over here and reconstruct the object model. And that's what we did over there with the student class. That's what we have created, the student class. Okay. So with this, we are done with the like basic structure right now. From next video, we'll be making the video on the array. So thank you. Hi everyone. In this video, we will be passing JSON containing arrays. Now we conquer a JSON structure that is similar to the one which we have done. But instead of just single value, it might also have an array of values. As we can see in this JSON, a is a similar class is a similar key value pair as what we had done before. But the subject has an array of values which contains physics, chemistry, maths, which are values. It has a multiple values. That's why it's contained in a list or array. So for this, we'll be making a class. So let's code. Yeah. So I have already created array JSON.dot and I have already written a JSON over here so that it's easier for us to see and code. Yeah. In this, we have class entity that has a simple string value, but the subject what we have, it has a value of list of string data type. So basically what we check once the structure of the JSON. The structure of JSON is the map. Basically because since it starts with a curly braces and ends with a curly braces. So it's a map. It's not list of map. It does contain a value. It does contain a value which has a list of string data type. But it's just a map. So we'll write a class similar to what we have written before. Like class, maybe student again. Student. Then string string class. Class is a keyword, so we can use standard maybe. Then list of string. Basically, since the values physics, chemistry, maths a string and is contained in a list, so we have a list with a string data type, and we give value of it this as subjects. You can give any names, but I prefer giving the same similar names to what the JSON key has name. Yeah. Now we will create similar constructor as these are the same step what we have done in the previous video. So I am not explaining much and focusing on coding. Start subject. Uh, Similarly, we will create a factory, use the factory keyword, and create a function from JSON. Student class name dot from JSON map string comma dynamic JSON. Like in this JSON, you might be clear like why we are using string dynamic data type over here. Like this, every time it's not. We can't say we will have a string value. As we can see, the subjects, the entity, the subject has a value of list data type, list string data type. So we keep it as a dynamic. Whatever it comes, the value, whatever it is, we will map it with the key. Okay. So the student dot from JSON, basically what it does, it will return full object. It will map everything and return the value. It will return. It returns the model over here. Student. So student. Sorry. Standard JSON class. Whatever value, whatever name you give for your, whatever name you give for your consideration, as I have written standard over here. Sorry, spelling mistake. Standard. As I have written standard over here, but when I am mapping it with the JSON, I need to use the key name what it is, like class. Class is the key. I have written the string, the name of the in the name in the model is standard, but I need to use the key what I have what I am getting from the basically what I am getting key from the server. So class is the key what server is giving it to me, and I have written I will be storing that class value into a variable named standard. So I am mapping standard with the class basically. That's what I have done over here. Then subjects is on subjects. Do you think like we are done with this? But we are not. The code which we have written, it works for the simple JSON. Right now we have a list of string data type. So basically when we run this code, we'll get an error. Let me show the error what we get when we run. So if we run that code, we'll get the type list dynamic is not a subtype for type list string. This is error which we will get. So what does it means basically? We are expecting a list string, but we get a list dynamic since the application cannot identify the type yet. So basically the Flutter, the framework doesn't identify like what type of value is coming. So it was expecting list string, but it got a value as list dynamic. So that's what we need to handle over here right now. So in this, what we'll do, like these type of errors, like I faced in a lot of time when I was doing my development. So it's pretty easy to handle once you get a hook of it. It's like pretty simple. Like you can create a variable name var. I'm not giving any data type over here. So we are using var over here. Standard basically standard. No subjects. Subjects from JSON. is equals to JSON subjects. Here, first we are mapping a variable subjects from JSON to the subjects entity. But subject from JSON is still a list dynamic. Now we explicitly create a list of string. So right now we have just mapped the value of the value of JSON of subjects to a subjects from JSON. Now we will create a specific list string value. List string value subjects list, which will point to create new object list string dot from, and we will write right now what subjects from JSON. Subjects from JSON. Yeah. With this, what we have done right now, first we are mapping a variable subjects from JSON to the JSON string subject entity. But still, the value of subjects from JSON is in list dynamic format. So then we create an explicitly list string type. The list string, we have given the variable name subject list that contains the element of the string from JSON. So what we have done, we have mapped values of subjects from JSON, which was in a list dynamic format, to a list string using from keyword. This is what from keyword does. It will take the values from subjects from JSON and store it in list of string as an array. And now we will change over here list of string. It will be subjects list. Perfect. Now if we will run, it won't give you any error. It will return. Basically, when we pass the value from student.from JSON, we will pass the raw JSON. We will get the model of the class. Okay. With this now we get to know like how we can pass array of strings in the JSON format. Hi. In this video, we will be learning how to pass JSON which has nested structures. So this is the JSON which we will be working on this time. Shape name is the similar to what we had key value pair in the previous videos. This time the property is the key, which has the value of an object instead of having a basic data type. So when we work with such problems, we break down the things, then we code. So what we will be doing, we will be creating first a class with the name of property, then we create an outer class with the name of shape, then we call the inside class to the outer class. Basically, we will calling property class to the shape class. Let's code. You will get to know what I'm speaking about. It's better to code and then understand. So I have already created nested JSON.dart over here and written the JSON which we require, and it's easier for us to understand what I have been doing from the previous videos also. So I have created class with the name of shape. No, first we will create the inner class with the name of property. So it's just my habit. This is how I work. I create the inner class first and I move outside. So that's what I do. It's to you how you code. Everyone have a different coding style, methodology. Double breadth. Now creating a constructor of it. This dot. But we will not write the factory function over here right now. First we will create a class of the outer class also. Outer class with the name of shape and string shape name, and now we will call the inner class. That's what I was speaking of. We will call the inner class over here. Property. We can't use any other data type over here because what we were getting from the server is an object. So what we are doing, we are calling just the inner class. We have created a class and we are calling that into another class, and we will create object over here, constructor over here. Sorry, this dot property comma this dot shape name. Yeah, and now we will write the factory function for both of the code. So what we do when we create the similar thing which I follow, I make the factory function for the inner classes first, then I move outside. Similarly, I will make the factory function for the property first, then I will make it for the shape from JSON map string dynamic name JSON and return will return class model over here property and path JSON and key name is breadth. And similarly width JSON breadth. And similarly we will create a factory class for the outer class. Factory shape from JSON map string dynamic JSON return shape property JSON property shape name JSON. As I told, key name should be the same what we are getting from the server. So I have not written the underscore over here, but I need to write it over here since I'm getting the key as shape underscore name from the server. Yeah, this is what we have written right now. Do you think it is correct? Do you think like we are done with this right now? No, we are not, because when we are passing the from JSON the value, the raw JSON from shape.from JSON, we have not called the property class over here. So what we will do, the JSON property, I need to call the from JSON of the property function over here. I will call property dot from JSON and JSON. Yeah, this will work perfectly. The previous code what we have written will get an error. Let me show you the error what we will be getting. Error will be type internal linked hash map string dynamic is not a subtype of type property. It will show the type. This is basically a type mismatch error. Yeah. So this is how it will work. We need to call the property dot from JSON of the inner class over here. So that's what I have told you how I follow the things. First I create the class, or first I create the inner class, the innermost nested class. Then I start making outer classes, and I first initializes the variables and their constructors. Then I write the factory of each classes from as moving from bottom to top. How we made the classes? First we made the property, then shape. First we made the class property, initialize then variables named width and breadth and their constructor. Then I made class shape, initialized the name shape name, initialized property and created a constructor. Then I started making the factory, and I created the factory first for the innermost class, the property. Then I made it for shape because I have to call the property class That is why. Okay, with this, now we know how to pass the nested JSON. Thank you. Hi, this is last section of Flutter series where we will be learning how to do HTTP request, get the data and show it in an application. So in this, we'll be making an earthquake application where we'll be using a API, free API of US government. So over here, I have already built a simple UI so that we don't waste time building a UI. And I will add the link of this repository in the resources so that you can clone and work on it directly. And it's pretty simple. I will explain you the code what I have done. In this, I have the scaffold in the background color, which is gray. I have used because I have made a containers white. Then in that, I have a center tile. The app bar title, I have made it center tile true. Then elevation over here is 0, and the text of the title I have written over here. Then in container, I have a list view builder where I have a container, and each container I've done a box decoration and given a shadow. I made it blur, and box shape I made it rectangle, and the color I have given is white. It's pretty off white, it's not actually white. Then border radius is 10, and margin and padding I've used 8. Then I used a row. So basically this is a row where I have made one container which uses a width of 1/6 of the font size. 1/6 of the font size, what are the width is using media query. Then I have made the circular shape with a red color, and that I have write the 1. Right now it's 1. Will be basically, it will be having the magnitude of earthquake. Then another container which is in that contains column which has the main city name and then the localite. That's what. That's all, and this is all in list view builder, so it's scrollable. It's scrollable, and I have already made a weather API class which will be using the API which we will be using. So I've already made it. You can also use this API. Let me show you. So API is earthquake API. You can directly search earthquake API and API documentation earthquake catalog. So we'll be using this link, get query. Yeah, this one. So you can also get this link from the website itself. It's pretty easy, and it's very complex JSON. So I've already built it, pre-built it. So if we don't waste time doing this, thank you. From the next sessions and next video onwards, we'll be doing the future builder, then the HTTP request. With that, we'll be completing our the Flutter series. Thank you. Hi. In this video, we'll be seeing how to use future builder in an application. So why do we need future builder? Basically, we need future builder because we don't know what data we'll be having in the future. So we just use the future builder as a function, future builder, to call the function which will return us the future value. For the time being, we will just use the variables, and the data will be filled later on. And if suppose some error occur, it will return us a snapshot with an error. So we can check and we can give an error to our screen. So widget future builder is a widget that builds itself based on the latest snapshot. Snapshot is basically what the function will return of interaction with the future. Future is the function which we will be calling. So future is the function which will be calling and which will return the snapshot, So let's begin with coding, the hands-on, like how to integrate future builder in an application. So basically what we will do, we need to use we need to show when we request to a server and we get the perfect 200 response code, then we need to show the list view builder. This screen we should show, and otherwise we will be showing there is a server error and server under maintenance. So for this, we'll use future builder over here, future builder dot future builder. Then we call it over here, we'll be calling a future. as I said, future is the function. So this is a function future will be calling. So let's create a function fetch post. Fetch post, and let's create function of a fetch post. So it's a async function. We want this into work in asynchronous. Fetch post. Sorry. Over here, the parenthesis will be on this side. I made a mistake. Async, correct. Now we have got the future over here. Let's cut this first, or maybe we can comment it and we will uncomment it afterwards. So let's comment it first, and this is where our row is ending. Till here we were returning this tree builder. Yeah, till here we need to comment. Yeah, commented the perfect comment. The future builder. This is like future is the function which we're calling, and we'll get a snapshot from over here. So what we'll do, we'll use builder over here. So we have used future, now we'll use builder. Builder will be used to build the UI which we need to show. So we'll do builder, build the context. So just to pass the context, and then async snapshot. Yeah, then snapshot. Snapshot is basically what our function will return. If it shows it's a successful result, we will show the UI. Otherwise, it will show like server under maintenance. And we don't have we have three cases. Suppose we don't have any result yet. That will be the case when the app is just opened and there is no data inside it. Then what it should show. That will be first. So we'll check if snapshot equals snapshot dot data is equals to null. Then it should show circular progress bar. So container. So what I will do, I will make a container and I will center the circular container, child center, and then child circular progress bar, circular circular progress indicator. Perfect. And then yeah, so this is one of the case when we don't have any data on our screen, so we should show the circular data. When it's none, then we show the circular progress indicator. Then we check else if snapshot data is not equals to null. Then there's one more condition. When snapshot data is not equals to null, means something which we have got from the function is not equals to null. And here we will show, then we'll check if we will returning from the, sorry, I have placed it in the wrong place, control X. So snapshot.data is not equals to null. When it's not equals to null, I will check the snapshot.data is snapshot.data is equals to sorry for inconvenience I hope convenience sorry for inconvenience server under maintenance. Server under maintenance. If the function is written in this, then we have to show, then we have to return container with child center, and then we need to show the what we are returning, child text, and what we have returned, the snapshot of data. Sorry, snapshot dot data. And now we, yep. And if this is not, means we have successfully got the result, and we'll show the UI. So over here we will return our list view builder, what we supposed to, what we have to show when the result is successful. So I will just cut this and paste it over there. Yep, I think this I remove. I feel it's pretty working right now. So what's happening? Sorry for inconvenience. So what I have done, I used a future builder, and in future I'm calling a fetch post function which will return what I'm getting from an one what I'm getting when I am doing HTTP request. If this data is null, then we need to know circular progress bar. This will be a condition when the user just opens an app. Then if the snapshot of data is not equal to null, we'll check. If I am sending from the function sorry for inconvenience server under maintenance, then I need to show the text in between in the center is that. Otherwise, this is not a condition, means we have successfully called the result, and then I will show the list view dot build over here. This is how it will work. Let's try and execute it. Right now we haven't defined the fetch post function, but still it will give some result. It will show us the circular progress indicator over here, and I'll be putting this code on the GitHub, the initial commit, which you can just clone it and start working on the future builder directly itself. So it will be easier for you rather than making the copying the whole UI again. Be easier for you to build. And I haven't explained in the weather API.dart class because in just previous 3 videos, like we have done this part only. So you can directly go through this. It's pretty easy, like there's nothing much, like I've already explained like how the things are working, how we call the classes, how we make the list of class. So everything is pretty similar, so I didn't explain much. And main.dart is same. This is, I already explained to you like how the dart is, how I designed everything. So let's wait for it to execute and show up on the screen. The next video we'll be making the fetch post function, then we'll be having a full data. So yeah, as we can see, like we haven't defined the fetch post function, so it's not returning anything. So for time being, the snapshot is null. That's why we can just see the circular progress bar. In the next video, I will be making a fetch post function where I will teach you how to make a HTTP request. Thank you. Hi. In this video, we'll be seeing how to make a HTTP request. For that, we need to add a package in the first pack YAML of HTTP. This is how in dev dependency I have added HTTP colon. There's no need to write version. If you want, you can write. If you don't want, you may not write. It will still work. It will take a compatible version or the latest version from the repository for you. So now what we'll do, we'll first make a file that's global.dart. It's a good habit of making a separate file just to save all the URLs that are being used in your application. So const base underscore URL is equals to this, then constant and earthquake underscore URL is equals to this. So as I said, we'll be using this documentation. So let's open this and copy the base URL. So we'll be using this query. Open this. This is a full what we have. So this will be our base URL. Control C and sorry, Control C and the base URL here. Then we have left with full URL. Control C. It will be underscore base URL slash this. So this is a full URL. So it's good, always a good habit to make a separate file where we store all the URLs what we are having if something changes, so that we can change it easily. So that's why I made a separate file for the global.dart. Now I will make a fetch post function as I discussed. Similarly, as we have discussed in previous video, we are not getting any data over here right now, so we are just seeing the circular progress bar. So for this, first we need to import http dart. Cool. Then we need to import global.dart. So what we have made, the module slash global.dart. Then the weather API class what we have made, import module weather API.dart. Then we need to use async. We need to import the async class. Import async. Then we need to use import convert class that converts the JSON. It's basically a converter. The data which is sent is in a certain format, encoded, which we need to decode it so that we can convert it into class and use it in our application. So this is a fetch post function which we need to build right now. So I'll show you what we have to write code for this, and let's do it. So what are you doing? The var response. Response is basically what we'll be getting from the request, and await. Await is used basically. It will wait for the response to come, then it will execute the next statement in this function. Async await works in this fashion. http dot get. As we have seen in this website, this is a get request. This is a get request which we are using. Oh yeah, it's get request. So we need to use get. And so what I will do over here, https h, I will make it http. So now I can use http over here, http.get, and now we'll use the URL what we earthquake URL, the get request. In the header I will set the content type, what type of content I will be, what type of content I am content type is application JSON, application slash JSON, and That's it. This is a request what we have made. As soon as we get any response, we will check if response dot code response status code dot status code is equals to 200. 200 is basically success, like we have got a perfect result what we wanted. So we'll print. So I will first print the body, response body, and response dot response, so many typos this time, body. Yeah, so I printed the response body, and else I'll print error. So let's run this and we'll get to see like how it's happening. Then we'll encode and decode, we'll code further. So let's see. Let's earthquake URL, it's showing error. Why? It's defined. Okay, wait, it's not saved. Yeah, right. As we can see, as I have just printed the whole response.body, I'm getting the full response over here. This is the response what we wanted. So as we are getting successful response, we need to show it in an application. So what we'll do over here. So finally, I'll use the weather API, uh, weather API. Let's name it weather API. That's it. Now this is the class we have created, object of it. Now we will use it. So what I'm doing over here, response body we have printed. So we'll do final data is equals to JSON.decode. So converter class is used for this because we want to decode everything. JSON.decode, and we'll put data inside that. No, we'll do response body inside that. Sorry, my bad. Response body dot body. Perfect. So why we use why we have imported the converter over here. So why we imported this? Because we need to, it's used for encoding and decoding. It will basically convert JSON into classes into this area. It will decode the whole JSON, and we have saved that into variable called data. So now we need to assign it to a weather API variable, which is equals to weather API dot from JSON, that you made from JSON, and to JSON are two part of it. So we have made it from JSON, and then we'll return weather API. Yeah, this function is pretty easy. Like what we did, we just made a HTTP request. When we get the request, we check what is status code. If it's 200, I printed the response body. And this is like how it's getting printed. Now we can see we are getting successful request. So what I did, I just first decoded the whole JSON, then saved into a variable called data. Then using weather API, I have converted JSON, whole JSON into a class, and I'm returning that object, the class object. That's what I'm returning over here, and we will be using this object to show data in an application. So let's run it and see what happens. As you can see right now, we are showing the default what I have printed over there, but we are right now we are returning it successful. It's returning something. So this time it's the snapshot.data is not equals to null, and neither it's sorry for inconvenience server under maintenance. So it's returning perfectly. So what I will doing, so in error I will return this, sorry for inconvenience server under maintenance. So if some error occur, we'll get this result, and we can show this will work perfectly fine. So what we have to do now, so what we have, like what we converted and saved into our class object with weather API name, we need to use that and show the data into application. So what I will do over here, so this is one, I will remove this time. So basically the magnitude can be decimal too, but I feel we just need to show the magnitude in integer format because it would look good in an application. So what I'll be doing, I'll be converting into an integer weather API dot feature and index dot properties dot magnitude mag, and I will use seal over here dot seal so that I get an integer dot to string. Perfect, it will print. Let's try this. And first over here I need to add item counter. Item counter is basically how much data I have and how much data, how many times I want to loop this, weather API dot features dot length. So I feel this should work now. So as we can see, as soon as I ran, I'm getting the data like what I wanted to show. I'm getting all data. So now one more thing, uh, as you can see, I will show you the data. Wait, I will use pretty printer over here. Pretty printer is basically to see the JSON in a good format. As you can see over here, JSON is too cluttered. It's not easy to understand. So I will format the JSON and it will be pretty easier for everyone else to understand the process. So I hope you might have understood like how fetch post, how we use HTTP request. Is pretty easy and straightforward. It's not too difficult to use to make the HTTP request. So once it's done, I will let you know how to do it. Then the only thing I want to show here, the data which we are getting for the where it's happening, where the earthquake happening. Let's use, it has local area and everything in a same string, just separated by a comma. So what I will doing over here, yeah, as you can see, it's the title is showing the 0.2 to 21 kilometer northwest of Amboy, Washington. So Washington is the like area, and this Amboy is basically a nearby the local area which we want to show in an application. So what I will doing it, I will using a split function. I will use the split function to split the string and show it into our application. So let me do it and show it to you. So what I will do for each, because I want for the each tiles, I will make a list of string. Okay, then I will do places. This is a variable name. I've created a list of string places, weather API dot feature index dot properties dot places dot split. Split, we want to split it using comma, so I placed comma over here. So now we are having everything in this format. I will print places for you. It will be easier for you to understand why I'm doing this, because I was getting all the the full place I was to see. Now we get the California as the place, and this is the local area where the earthquake has happened. So this is why I have to it. This is why I am separating it with comma, so it's easier for us to understand, easier for us to show it in our data. So what I will do it over here, uh, we will do places over here. We'll call the places array, and we'll call places start length -1. As we know, the last is the mean, the main city is shown in the last thing, and the local area we can show the places 0. Now let us run it. Yeah, it's perfectly, like we can see everything is shown in our application, working perfectly as we wanted. So now what we'll do, I think we should trim it. I think it has a space in front and behind, that's why it's not aligning properly. Let's see what happens whether that, yeah, I thought correctly, like it had a space in front and behind, so I trimmed it, so it's perfectly aligned right now. So as you can see, we have got a data from internet and from the request and showed into our application. So let's do one more thing. We are done with the basic thing, like what we wanted to do. Let's do something cool, like making it good to see. So let's make a list of colors, and for each magnitude we should have a different color. So how we should do it? List of color. It's not, I'm just doing to make the UI looks good. So we will use colors dot, sorry, colors dot yellow, comma colors dot green, comma colors dot blue. Basically, why I'm doing this, suppose for 1 I want to choose yellow color, for 2 if the magnitude is 1 I will show the yellow color instead of red, if magnitude is 2 I will show green color instead of red, because every magnitude has the same color, so let's change it. It will look good. That's what I'm doing right now. Colors dot orange, comma colors dot red. Yep, with this I made an array of colors. So now we need to use the color in our application. We have to find that. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, over here. Perfect. So what I will do over here, colors. Now what we'll do, first we will check again whether API the magnitude, what's the magnitude, feature index dot properties dot magnitude dot c, and we will check if it's greater than 4, then we will give the fourth color, otherwise we'll use the whichever index the color it is. So I'll use this. Shall we? Yes. W. Don't worry, it's not a big thing. Yeah. And I will do -1 over here because because we are not showing 0, it will be 0 point something, it will return into 1, so that's why I have to the -1 over here. And let's try and run it. Oh, what happened? What just happened? What is an error? Okay, not in the range 0 to 4 inclusive -3. Okay, one more thing we need to check over here. If it's 0, we should give it 0. Thing happened like it turned into -1, 4 colon. I'll convert this whether API features magnitude seal. Sorry. Is equals to 0. So now we will check if it's 0, otherwise we'll use Ctrl V -1 and we'll make this and W. 0 to 4 perfectly inclusive -3. I think it should go -3 this time. Yeah. So now it's perfectly working. As we have seen, like I made my it's giving a perfect color. For 2 it's showing green, for 5 it's showing red. Above 4 it's everything is red basically. For 1 it's showing yellow, and for 3 it's showing blue, and for 4 it's showing orange. So with this we are done with the Flutter series. Thank you for watching the series. Welcome.